Okay, so this is going to be my tutorial on how to try and draw a little bit more accurately. What I've done here is I've actually drawn the box out on my piece of paper. The reason why I do that is because when I'm looking at a drawing, I'm always looking at the negative space around the feature, so that it's got to be within that box. That's going to help me with accuracy. Okay, so sometimes if you think that if you really struggle to actually be able to capture that shape and maybe you feel overwhelmed, maybe break it down into something where you're looking at the shape, the space around the object rather than this shape here. So I can see that this eye, I'm going to copy this middle eye, that this eye comes down about a little bit under halfway down that line. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little mark halfway down this line. I can then see that this is a little bit level, maybe it comes down a tiny bit, so I'm going to then make a mark here. This bit, you can see that this side of the corner of the eye here actually touches the box. And then I'm going to say that this part, you can see that's about maybe 1 centimetre or something. So I'm going to make a little mark here. And I'm going to see if I can try and copy. I might actually break this down. I'm going to put this, a line in the middle here. This is just to help me with my accuracy. I'll explain why in 1 second. But I'm going to try and copy this shape. Sorry about my video. I'm going to try and copy this shape here. I can see that that is roughly about that. So can you almost see, if you had an imaginary line down here, could you see that this shape here is similar to what I've got here? So that's me breaking down this into different shapes. This is also why we do the grid method as well, to try and see things as abstract shapes. I'm then need to try and make the other side of this shape. For making the other side of this shape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to almost follow this line. So I'm going to almost be looking at the angle of this line. You can see that's kind of straight down here. So I'm going to curve it around, but also have this straight line here where I'm going to add it to that corner which I marked before. That's almost a curve. You can see the corner of your eye. Most people's are going to curve in that way. And then I've almost got this, I've marked this part out by observing what is here. I might then, you can see that you've got the eyelid. Again, I'm just going to be looking at the angle of the lines. You can see that the line almost disappears. You can see this line here, and then you can't as much, so I'm going to make that a bit softer. That'll be blocked out anyway by eyelashes. And then you see this line is almost quite straight, and then it kind of softens out here. So I'm going to almost do something quite straight, and then maybe soften this out here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to observe, can you see the skin around here? You can almost see it looks a bit like a wishbone without that top bit. So I'm going to see if I can try and capture that. I'm going to see if I can try and get that bottom part. Where you can see this part here, if that had an imaginary thing here, that looks a bit like a wishbone, which looks a little bit like this as well. You can see that this line here is not actually as curved as this line. This curves quite a lot around. This just curves a little bit and then is quite flat. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say this part curved around, and then I'm going to make it quite flat. You can see the way that I'm drawing, that I'm not pressing down really hard at first because I might not be getting my line right. I just really lightly sketch it. this means that when I do this, if I make a mistake, it's no big deal. I can just rub it out. But if you press down really hard, it's quite difficult to actually rub out that mark. So I've got, this is my outline. This is the outline here. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to draw this part. I think some people always think that this eye is going to touch the bottom underneath here, when it actually doesn't. You can see it curves round and it goes round like here. You've got this little space underneath here. Okay, so I'm going to see again, I'm probably going to try and observe this shape a bit and see if I can try and capture that, just so I know that that curve is maybe in the right direction. I can check again. You can see that this space is a little bit like this space, and I'm going to make sure that the iris doesn't touch the bottom of the eye. I'm going to just sketch back around here, and I'm going to come back around here because I've just observed that that is roughly where that eye is. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to capture a little bit of details. You might see here, you're always going to have this little flesh bit here. You can see it in this eye as well, and in this eye, and in this eye. You're always going to have this little bit here. So I'm going to draw that in. It's normally roughly about here, so it's almost, you can see the roundness of the eyeball underneath the socket. So I'm going to keep this bit here, and then I'm going to start. No, actually, what I'm going to do first is I want to actually get this this black round bit in the middle. You can see there's a square here, and that's just the reflection of what she was looking at that time. But I'm just going to quickly mark in that circle. And say roughly it's going to be about this. I would actually recommend before getting the eyelashes and things like that, you want to make sure that you're trying to get some tonal range in. So with tonal range, we want to make sure that we're going from light to dark. And how we do this is we are going to change how much we press down the pencil. So you can see in the middle, maybe I'm going to capture this square. So I'm going to draw this square in. And that's going to be where that light reflects, and that is going to help it look three-dimensional. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to block out this bit in the middle, the darkest I can possibly make it, and that is by pressing down the pencil as hard as I possibly can. I'm trying to not get any white patches in the background. By doing that, okay? So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm then going to actually start. I'm going to start shading in some of this area because this person's light skinned. Well, we're going to go. You can maybe see there's a bit dark here, and it goes to light here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from darker to lighter. You can see that I'm moving my pencil really quickly, so I'm trying to avoid those scratchy lines, and I'm not pressing down really hard because that's normally when you get those scratchy lines too. I'm going to try and actually go a little bit harder with the pencil there because I can see that crevice. So when the skin folds in, that is when it's going to be the darkest. I'm then going to fade it out a little bit. This person's eye is actually quite pink, but normally I think people make the mistake when they're drawing the white of the eye, they'll think that the whole eye is just white. But you can see in this one as well, this goes from darker to lighter. A little bit the same here, you go from darker to lighter. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, from the corner, when it's almost in the socket of the eye, it's going to be darker, and then it's going to curve around and it's going to get lighter because that's where the light is actually reflecting on it. I'm going to do the same thing here. This is what I mean when I say directional shading. Okay, so I am going in the direction of the object. I know it's circular, so instead of going this way and making it look flat, I'm describing the shape of the object with how I'm moving the pencil. Okay, I'm not going to do the whole thing because it's going to take a while, but you understand what I mean. I'm going to go in here now and try and maybe get some of those patterns within that. The good thing about it when you're trying to pick up those highlights is that when you're doing the highlights, you can actually use a rubber to rub some of those things out. So you might start getting a basic thing where you might go a little bit harder with the pencil around here and harder with the pencil around here, and I'm going to start adding in these lines which you can normally see, and then you might add in a little bit more detail from what you can see. I'm just going to quickly show you how I do the eyelashes, and then I would like you to do the eyebrows and things like that too, and actually see if you can get the whole tone, but this is just a little bit of help in how to maybe try and improve the accuracy. So with the eyelashes, I'm curving around. They're going to come from this part here, which we're talking about, which is the skin in the inside of the eye. And normally you might have them and they're going to collect as 2 or 3 eyelashes. They're going to be curving around like this. And then I'm going to start changing that direction and keep on curving from that direction, and they're going to get smaller and smaller. Now you might add a little bit here, and then on the bottom, eyelashes are normally a bit shorter, but they're coming from this bit of skin here. And again, I'm changing that direction. I'm going to finish this eye and I'm going to send you the picture, but I'm not going to record the whole thing because this is already 12 minutes. So good luck, I hope that helps.